Trent doesn't know the club anything. I think the reaction is a bit false. It's a bit childish. Oh, we're a different type of football team. You don't get it. Shut up, man.
Spurs win the Europa League and Arsenal don't win the Champions League. Who's had a better season, John?
It might be Brexit, it might be tariff, I don't know what it is, but we are done out here. I could not believe it. £18! What's happening, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of the Whisper It Loudly podcast. I'm Jordan Jarrett-Bryan, joined by the returning Hugh Woozencroft and Darren Lewis. Plenty to get through on the pod this week. We're going to be heading to North London for what could be, for one half of North London, the worst week of their entire existence. But for the other half of North London, could be one of the biggest overturnings and biggest weeks in their history as well. We'll also speak about Trent Alexander-Arnold. He has come out and confirmed that he will be leaving his boyhood club, Liverpool, but most of the reaction to his decision to leave the club. And also, as three young-ish men on this podcast here, we're speaking about fitness, health and well-being, and how difficult it can be for men of a certain age to stay healthy, to stay fit, but also how important it is as well. And I've got a bit of a rant at the end of the pod if there's time as well. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Really good. Really good. It's good to have you back, Hugh. I just wanted to ask a very quick question before we start. If Spurs win the Europa League and Arsenal don't win the Champions League, who's had a better season, John?
Oh, okay. Well, you've kind of kicked off the pod as where I was going. If Spurs win the Europa League and Arsenal do not win the Champions League, the better season, I would still say, well, depending if Arsenal finish second, that's a caveat. I would still say Arsenal. Who's had the more successful season? That's an important word in that question. It's clearly Spurs. Who do you think, Darren Lewis?
Every season, at the start of every season, it's all about winning. And if you go through all the travails, but you end up with a trophy, then you go into the summer very, very happy indeed. And of the two clubs, if that were to happen, then Spurs fans, they'd have the reason for more optimism and they'd be celebrating.
Well, let's give some context just for those that aren't aware. This week, Tottenham Hotspur had the second leg of their semi-final match against Bodo Glimt. They travel to Norway with a 3-1 lead. Arsenal travel to Paris in the Champions League, trailing by a goal to nil. I mean, I if you're asking me, would I swap my season as an Arsenal fan with no silverware at the end of it for Spurs this season, with a Europa League at the end of it? The answer is no. I wouldn't. I wouldn't swap my season for their season. I don't think a trophy at the end of it, albeit a European trophy, masks what could be over 20 defeats in the league. That's a lot of travelling to games as a Spurs fan, and even home games, seeing not only defeats, but some quite embarrassing, horrifically absurd defeats in there as well. And yeah, the binary of success is trophies at the end of it. I accept that, but no, I'd still rather be an Arsenal fan than a Spurs fan come the end of the season. Hugh, what's your thoughts? Who would you rather be in Darren's scenario?
No, listen, let's be realistic here. Come on, I agree with you, Jordan. It would be massive for Tottenham to win a trophy of any description. If they win a European trophy that gets them into the Champions League, it's massive. They've had a terrible season. Nothing's going to save it from being a terrible season. It underlines for me the fact that they and Manchester United will probably be in the final. The weaknesses of the Europa League. You guys know I do Thursday nights on TalkSport. I've, for many years, watched a lot of Europa League football. I like the competition because it throws up games against, matchups, if you like, that we don't see regularly. We see the same teams play against one another in the Champions League much more regularly. A team can have a special season. They're in the Europa League and go far and get to a final and do something special. And the next year, they're a mid-table side, they're, whatever. So I think it's special in that regard because I think something can happen to your team that never regularly happens. That might be the case for Spurs this season. But I've said it before on my show and I'll say it again. Whoever's in the Europa League from the Premier League should be getting at least to the Final Four. Whoever is in the Europa League from England should be getting at least to the Final Four. especially
Agree.
now teams from the Champions League don't drop down into that competition. So again, you have to put it into context. I don't think it's a particularly strong competition. Was it last season or the season before? I think Barcelona dropped down into the Europa League from the Champions League. Man United had to play them. I think we knocked them out, but that's the kind of matchup that was getting thrown your way in seasons gone by, and that's just not happening now. So let's be realistic about what's going to happen. I went to the last Spurs game against Bodo Glimt. There is a small hope for Bodo Glimt, but I think, to be honest, Tottenham on their day should win this competition. I truly believe that. I think they are a team that has more caveats for their poor performances this season. The huge number of injuries, disjointed squad, people of different fitness levels has been a factor. I think with everyone fit, they're the best team. They currently are the best team. They've beaten Man United 3 times this season. So before anyone goes, well, when we've got everyone fit, even a poor Tottenham team has beaten Manchester United 3 times this season. A horrific Tottenham team. So the only reason I would make Man United favourites in the competition is because I believe that they're a team that shows up on the big occasion, and they're a club that's more built for the big occasion than Tottenham Hotspur are. But if it was just Man United playing Tottenham in a league game next week or the week after, I'd put my money on Spurs. But I just feel like in a final, they're probably not going to show up. But it is a massive week for them nonetheless. Massive week for Arsenal as well.
Yeah. We'll get to Arsenal in a second, but Darren, are Tottenham definitely going through? I know it's a 3-1 lead. Would you put your house on them finishing the job off? Or is it going to be one of those weeks where we look back on Friday morning and the internet has a meltdown because Spurs have blown a 3-1 lead?
Yeah, I think if Spurs blow this one, I think they might.
Why is he laughing? Why is he laughing? You've been having dreams that Tottenham have lost this game before it's even happened. What are you laughing about?
I think Spurs win the game, and I think they go through to the final. But we all say that knowing that one goal.
Do you know what? I'm sure you know this, particularly Hugh, doing Thursday nights. Bodo Glimt's record at home is good. They've beaten Besiktas, Olympiacos, 20, Roma, Lazio, all at home. In fact, they beat Jose Mourinho's Lazio because they've got this run of 30 games unbeaten in 30. I think they've won 30 of their 37 games at home. Artificial pitch, sub-zero temperatures. It's a difficult place to go. So there's no guarantee that
Mourinho's Roma, they lost 6-1, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I think as far as Spurs are concerned, yes, there's that triumphalism. In each of those games where they were winners, they scored at least 2 goals, Bodo Glimt, and it's 2 goals that they need to go through. So
I think Darren, sorry to cut you. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, their captain and or top scorer, I heard, are suspended for this game.
They've got a huge number of suspensions and injuries.
Saltness is their top. Well, he's their informed striker.
It's Hauger. Hauger, I think, is the player that's usually leads the line that'll be missing.
Saltness is very much available, and he scored 7 goals in his last 7 games. And so there should be reason for Spurs to be concerned. But the bottom line is that Glimt are not a team that's all about one player where the sky falls in if he's not available. They're very much a team that works for each other. And it's precisely because so many other clubs have thought, hang on a minute, we've got a bye, we've drawn Bodo Glimt, that they will come unstuck. So I wouldn't be looking at this and thinking it's guaranteed for Spurs given their record at home.
Do we all think they're going through? I think Hugh said they will go through. I think
they'll go through, but listen, I've watched a lot of Bodo Glimt. This is a team where actually you look at they remind me of Atalanta. Every single player, when they get the ball, seems to have time. It's just a really interesting quirk. The other thing is there's fluidity in their formations. Sometimes you look down, you're like, it's a flat back 5. The wing backs might be high on another occasion, overlapping. Sometimes you sit there, you're like, okay, it's a 5-4-1, 3-4-3, whatever it might be. There's a fluidity there to the way that they play. They're all composed on the ball. The manager's been there for 8 years. Tottenham fans, if you're thinking about who might replace Ange Postecoglou, you might not need to look much further, because I watched that game on Thursday night and I said if Tottenham played with as much composure on the ball as Bodo Glimt did, they'd be a Champions League team every year. They've got quality. What they don't have is control over the game in the same way. They overpowered Bodo Glimt. And that's what happens with a lot of Premier League teams in Europe. We don't play as well as the opposition. We're not as well coached as the opposition, but our players are more physical, quicker, more powerful. And ultimately, that happens to that. You look at Manchester United, for example, against Lyon, they just overpowered them at the end of the game. They didn't do anything particularly special football wise. They put Harry Maguire up front and they overpowered their opposition. I think even against Athletic Bilbao, and again, Manchester United had a really good performance. The first 20 or so minutes, they found it hard to get in the game. They then overpowered Athletic Bilbao. So that's where there's a slight mismatch with English teams in Europe, of physicality, which doesn't lend itself well to that competition for teams from other countries. But if Spurs don't go through, I'm not going to call it a disgrace, because Bodo Glimt are a serious outfit. They need to be taken seriously. And at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, when they scored their goal, it felt like a big goal. It felt like, do you know what? 3-0, probably going to be
Done.
too much.
Yeah.
2, there's a chance. So I'm not going to call anything too early.
All right, let's move to the red half of North London. Arsenal, as I mentioned, they're travelling to Paris tomorrow at the point of recording this to take on Paris Saint-Germain. Listen, you're going to call me a biased Arsenal fan, rose-tinted spectacles, all that stuff. I think Arsenal win this game. I understand why those that feel that Paris win this game and go through. Paris are at home. Paris have a lead. Paris Saint-Germain are a very, very good football team managed by a very, very good, I think, underrated still manager, okay? I just feel it's going to be one of those games where Arsenal rise. And the big reason, I'll start with you, Hugh, that I think Arsenal going to beat Paris Saint-Germain, it's not because of talent. It's not because of even tactics. I think Arsenal win this game because for all people keep telling me it's a new Paris Saint-Germain, it's not the Galactico era, this is a team. That all might be true. I'm saying let's test it. Let's see if this really is a new Paris Saint-Germain. Let's see if that ability to collapse has definitely, is definitely something of the past. We've seen Paris Saint-Germain collapse in the Champions League with bigger leads than 1-goal leads. Do you know what I mean? So I'm saying Arsenal should be able to test that. Thomas Partey comes back into the midfield. Declan Rice is on form. And I think if Arsenal can box clever and in trying to win this game, not lose it too early, I can see Arsenal doing something quite special at the Parc des Princes. Tell me that I'm deluded and biased and talking absolute rubbish.
Well, I'm just going to come back at you with your words, because Paris Saint-Germain are a very good team. But when you say doing something quite special at the Parc des Princes, it's like, well, they're not the greatest team in football history. They're a very good team. They've got some incredible talents. They're at home. They've got a lead. Everything's set up for them. They're not unbeatable. They only have a 1-goal lead. It could have easily been more. Aston Villa have beaten them recently, albeit PSG were away from home. But again, Aston Villa overpowered them for much of that second half and probably should have gone through, missed a couple of sitters. And there were panic stations for Paris Saint-Germain. And that's where Arsenal need to take them. They need to take them into a real place of discomfort. But Arsenal winning 1-0 away at PSG is not a shock result. Let's not disrespect Arsenal or make out that they're not a very, very strong team. Also, by the way, with an excellent defensive record. They didn't defend that great in the first leg. I can't imagine they're going to defend worse in the second leg, based on how we've seen them defend over the last 50 or 60 games. They don't often defend that poorly, and they don't often back up a poor defensive performance with another one. So, I get it. There's a big downer on Arsenal at the moment. There's obviously been a focus. And it's not just them, Man United, Spurs, teams doing well in Europe, clearly focused on that competition and not the domestic campaign. So a lot was made of Arsenal's defeat at the weekend. But again, I think everyone's thoughts, everyone's energy, everyone's emotions are geared towards the game in midweek. But let's not talk about it as if it was, winning 5-1 against Real Madrid over 2 legs. We're not going to be stunned. We shouldn't be stunned. If Arsenal win 1 or 2-0 away at Paris Saint-Germain, it's not, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked anyway. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, well, briefly, do you think they will go through before Darren comes in? Do you think they will?
I
They
think
will
they'll
go
go
through.
through. I think they'll win by a goal. It'll go extra time, might even go penalties. But I just got a feeling this is based on nothing other than Arsenal are they're not mugs anymore. They're not. They have learned from the past experiences in Europe. They have got even when they again out of possession. I know it's been spoken about a lot recently. They're a hard team to play through. Really, even if PSG do have a lot of the ball, they're a difficult team to play through. Arsenal, so all they need is that goal. If they get themselves in
Mm.
front, again, they'll be taking this PSG team to somewhere they haven't been as an inexperienced side. We spoke about Arsenal in that light in the past couple of seasons. We could possibly be talking about PSG in that light, saying they're a wonderful team with more experience, with more time together, with more age. They'll be a winner of the Champions League. This might not be their
All right.
year.
Darren, I think Hughes makes a good point about maybe my wording of it being a special night. PSG aren't Paris Saint-Germain. They're not Liverpool. This wouldn't be the greatest comeback of European history. Where do you sit on this tie, and who do you think goes through?
I think PSG go through. I think they've only lost twice at home all season. The last time was against Liverpool, but Liverpool have got more firepower than Arsenal. They've got more points of attack than Arsenal. Liverpool battered them. PSG were all over them, and everyone came away from that game wondering how PSG didn't win that game. And even Liverpool would admit they were lucky in that game. The other time was Atletico Madrid in November. But even Madrid, they've got Griezmann, they've got Alvarez, they've got gunmen. And I just think, as far as Arsenal are concerned, if they had strikers, I would maybe tip the balance towards Arsenal. There's another key reason why I think PSG are going to edge it. They've got terrific balance between defence and attack. The onus is on Arsenal to attack PSG, and as the game wears on, there will be anxieties in the Arsenal team back line that PSG will be able to take advantage of. I just wish Arsenal, for your sake, I'll be real, had something through the middle, because PSG played Dembele through the middle and he's just filled his boots so far this season. I think it's 33 goals he scored. Whereas Arsenal, if you close out Saka, Odegaard isn't as potent as he was last season. Martinelli missed what was a big chance in the first leg. You don't have enough free scoring players outside of Saka to believe you can go to Paris and win. And just one last thing. I think, as far as Arsenal are concerned, they played a very strong side in the Premier League on Saturday against Bournemouth. I can understand why they did, because second place isn't locked off yet. And that race for Champions League football it's now a race, it's a scramble. But as far as PSG are concerned, they didn't play Donnarumma, they didn't play Kvaratskhelia, they didn't play Dembele. Ruiz came on in the second half in their defeat to Strasbourg at the weekend. I think Vitinha was another one who was on the bench. And I just feel that if Arsenal do get a goal and take it to extra time, PSG are going to have the fresher legs and they're going to have more energy. For Arsenal, it's going to be a slog, because they've had to combine the two assignments, whereas PSG can really prime themselves and get ready for this. So, listen, my heart, for your sake, and for the, I like English clubs to do well. I'd love to see Arsenal do it, but my head, all logic says to me, PSG are winning this game and this tie.
Just finally, Hugh, on Arsenal, should they get knocked out of the Champions League this week, where do we stand on Mikel Arteta's position in terms of, is he the guy that we think can still learn from this, kick on and win a major? And by major, I mean a Champions League or a Premier League. Or are there doubts about the fact, do we put him in the category of Pochettino and Southgate? Very good manager, can get you to a certain point, but doesn't have that thing that the elite managers, the winning managers have, which is, I won't just get you to a final. I won't just get you in a title race. I can actually see you through. I can get you over the line. Are those sort of concerns fair and genuine should he finish again trophyless this season?
I just think English football needs to be realistic. Something that I think we've football moved into a new era with Manchester City, and I don't think it's quite hit home for people what kind of era that is. Um, not many teams win the Champions League, firstly. So if you win it, you've done amazingly well. People act like it's getting passed around from club to club to club to anyone can win it. Anyone can't win the Champions League. Look at the names on the trophy.
It's a
Can Arsenal
handful.
win a champion? It's a handful of clubs. It's a few clubs. Being realistic over the last 20 years, it's a few clubs. So, firstly, if you're not one of those clubs, it's going to be very difficult for you to win the Champions League. Secondly, Premier League. 2 teams have won it in 8 years. 2. I know people go, it's Guardiola, this and that. Well, then maybe we have to wait until Pep's gone before we change how we view Arteta. But, you know, lots made of Arne Slot's come to the league. He's won it in his first year, this, that, and the other. With respect to Arsenal aren't Liverpool. Arsenal aren't Liverpool. Liverpool squad has plenty of players who've got over the line, who've won big trophies already. People act like Arne Slot because it's his first year. It's his players' first year. Arsenal could have won the league if they had Mo Salah, obviously. The form of the guy has been on another world. Incredible. I know people say he's toned down in the last few weeks. He went out from the gate and basically won the league. Unbelievable. So, you know, with respect to Arne Slot and what he's done, fantastic. But you need players like that to win the league in England. You do. You need world-class players on top form to win the Premier League. So the question is, do Arsenal have that? And can Mikel Arteta ever win the league or anyone else win the league at Arsenal without that? So that's the question mark. It's hard to see Mikel Arteta through the prism of, oh, you've been there for 5 years. You haven't won the Premier League. It's not as easy as that. It's not as easy as that. You know, this point's often made about Ronaldo versus Messi. When Messi won the World Cup, the debate's over. There you go. Messi won the World Cup. But Messi plays for Argentina. Cristiano Ronaldo plays for Portugal. Check the stats. Check the records. You ain't winning the World Cup if you play for Portugal. That's it. It just doesn't happen. So, again, it goes down to support. And does Mikel Arteta have the support? Now, what I'm hearing is big money will be spent at Arsenal. And if they go out and they get top players and they spend big money, I know people go, oh, he spent money already. Again, everything in context. Mikel Arteta's money has been spent to totally overhaul the squad. Totally. Actually, that money's only taken them from 8th to where they are now. So now it's the next phase. Can we go from 2nd to 1st? And what does that take? And for me, it takes having world-class players, which for me, with respect, Arsenal don't have. We've spoken about it before.
Let's have a chat. I mean, I think when the season finishes, there's definitely a deeper chat around how to win a Premier League, and we can dissect Arsenal in a bit more detail for sure. I do then want to move on now to Liverpool and to Trent Alexander-Arnold. It was confirmed this week that he will be moving on from Merseyside, and all reports are to believe that it's Real Madrid where he will be heading. I'm sure that'll be confirmed in the coming days. But I want to talk with you guys about the reaction to his statement and to his confirmation that he will be moving on, because I personally, and I've got some of my best friends are Liverpool fans and all that sort of stuff. I personally think a lot of Liverpool fans have let themselves down with how they have reacted to Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, what I want to speak about, guys, is the reaction from so many Liverpool supporters to Trent Alexander-Arnold leaving. Some are very vexed and angry, feeling like, well, why would you want to leave our club? This is your boyhood team. You know, you're one of our own. We're on top. Why the hell would you want to leave? Others have been a little bit more, I would say, understanding of why a young player would want to pursue bigger and wider aspirations. He's an ambitious man. Madrid, I think we all agree, are the biggest football club in the world. I would say, why would you not want to join Real Madrid if that indeed is to happen? Especially if you've won everything with your boyhood club. You've completed it. You've clocked the game. It's done. It's over. Time for a new challenge. And I just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts. To start with you, Darren, to those Liverpool supporters more so who are vexed by the fact that one of their own is moving on and decided that he wants a new challenge in his professional life.
Well, listen, any club's group of fans are perfectly entitled to feel the way that they do towards any given player. But we're all journalists and we all work in an ecosystem where we're asked for our opinion about things, about a variety of clubs. And so all of us do give our opinions. We come on pods and we talk about reactions because that quite literally is football. I think about Trent himself, and I've interviewed him a few times now, and I remember one of the questions I asked him was about the criticism he received a few years back when he'd won the Champions League, won the Premier League, he's won the cup competitions, and yet people were saying Trent can't do this, Trent can't do that, and they're pointing to his deficiencies. He's never been a regular first choice for England. And I asked him all about that, and he was very down to earth about it. And because he's got a great camp around him, and he shields himself from all the noise. And it just strikes me as fascinating, really, that there's been this big body of opinion that he can't do this, he can't do that. But when he then decides, all right, well, I'm going to be the master of my own footballing destiny and go in this direction, lots of people are hating on him for wanting to do that. And that's a legitimate opinion to have, just as anybody else's. I've got full respect for anybody else's opinion as well. Because if a big player leaves your football club, you're entitled to feel sad about it. You're entitled to feel angry about it. You're entitled to.
But I don't think it's just sadness, Darren. I don't think I think it's more than sadness. There seems to be a tone of what he's doing is wrong. Why would you want to leave Liverpool Football Club? What you're doing is not the right decision. It's not just a big club leaving your team. Sorry, big player leaving your team. There seems to be this air of what you doing, mate. You're one of us. You're meant to be here. This is the wrong decision you're making.
Yeah,
and that for me is bizarre to me.
I don't think any club can have that entitlement around their players. And there have been monster players at a variety of clubs. Your club, when you had Alexis Sanchez and you didn't want him to leave for Manchester United, or gosh, I mean, you've had a number of players, to be honest with you.
All right.
You know, Samir Nasri didn't want to go to Manchester City. Emmanuel Adebayor. I look at Manchester United. They had Cristiano Ronaldo. They surrendered him to Real Madrid. Tottenham surrendered Gareth Bale to Real Madrid. There is an ecosystem where big players run down their contracts or force their way out of clubs to go to clubs where they feel either A, they get a new experience, a new footballing experience, or B, they have a greater chance of winning silverware.
But Darren, this feels different. This is not about big players leaving clubs. This is about the reaction of the fans. When Ronaldo left United,
the reaction of the fans, but the bottom line is the player has to think about what's best for him and his family. That's what a player has to think about. Yes,
I'm in agreement, but I don't care about the player though.
I'm not really sure what you want me to say because
hang on.
Okay, never listen to my wife and my kids.
No. Let me be clear. Let me be clear.
Think about what everybody in the pundits say.
Let me be clear. I don't care about player leaving club. Right, I'm in agreement with you that he's an ambitious man that wants a new chapter in his career. Big players have always left big clubs, but when Ronaldo left United, I don't remember the United fans almost spitting with blood that what he was doing was the wrong decision. I don't remember when Sanchez left Arsenal. We were disappointed, but there wasn't this vibe of this is the wrong decision. How dare you? I'm talking about the fan reaction. Forget the players.
So what are you asking me? I don't know what you're asking me then.
I'm asking you what you make of the section of Liverpool fans that feel the decision being made is wrong.
Well, my view is they're entitled to feel the way they feel. They're entitled to feel it. Everybody is entitled to feel the way they feel. But Trent is entitled to make a decision that's best for him. And From his point of view, what is he going to get out of it? He's not just going from one part of the country to another. He's going to another country. It's another footballing experience. It's another footballing culture. It's another footballing education. He's going to play with the best players on the planet. Liverpool's two world-class players are Salah and Van Dijk and Alisson, you would argue. Three world-classes, I should say. Real Madrid have got them probably in 8 of the 11 positions on the pitch, and he would make it 9. That's a difference. Liverpool have won the titles 6 years in the last 50. Real Madrid have won it 6 in the last 11 years. He is going to a club that is it has a storied history. Liverpool has a storied history. There are new heights, of course, for Liverpool to scale. There's a new voice to listen to in the dressing room, and he's got off to a fantastic start. But Trent will say, and clearly he has, he's sat down, he's thought about it. This is a new footballing experience that is going to benefit me from a sporting perspective and from a cultural perspective. Why would I not be able to have that opportunity to go and do that?
Hugh, I try and look at this from my point of view, and if it was Bukayo Saka, and how I might react to him wanting to go to Real Madrid. So, am I being unfair to that section of Liverpool fans by making the point that I'm making, or does this feel a little bit different to just a normal top player leaving, a different reaction to a top player leaving a top team? Does this feel a little bit unique and a little bit off?
I think too much of it has been directed at Trent, to be honest. That's the only thing that feels off to me. Because I feel like if they were getting £150 million and the club had accepted a massive bid for Trent, he wouldn't be getting the criticism. You know, there's this idea that he ran his contract down deliberately and wanted to leave the club with nothing. Firstly, I hate that idea. Trent doesn't know the club anything. And I know people also, and I heard it yesterday. I saw clips of fans over the weekend that were being, videoed by various media outlets asking for their reaction. That, the implication that he owes them, or that we gave him his football education, so he owes us at least a fee and all this stuff. Have you not seen the number of trophies that he's helped deliver for that football club? You think he hasn't repaid every penny that they've invested in him? Absolutely, he has. Of course he has. And for me, I think Trent might come back in the future if they'll have him. But the reality of the situation is they didn't give him the contract that he was after. That's the truth. Mo Salah's got his deal. Virgil van Dijk's got his deal. Trent hasn't got his deal. So maybe Liverpool didn't want to pay him. I don't know. We don't know the details. But I don't think you can put it all on the player. Because a player as good as Trent, 2 years ago, new deal. 2 years ago, new deal.
So,
Last
I'm
summer
not
with
sure,
a
you
year
know.
left. Sorry, Jordan.
Go,
Last
go,
summer
go.
with a year left, if he's not signing the deal, you set a deadline as a club. That says a player of that value, if you're not going to commit to a new deal before you enter the last year, we have to sell you. That's why that's the real reason that so many players get sold with 1 year left on their contract. Not that the club doesn't want to keep them for another year, but the club just doesn't want them to leave on a free. Liverpool were obviously content with the idea of him leaving on a free because they allowed him to get to this point. So can we not? They even turned down offers from Real Madrid in January to sign him, even if they wanted a little bit of money. So
Do
they
you
clearly
think it's
don't
about
mind him leaving on a free.
Do you think it's about the deal though, Hugh, or do you think that he genuinely wanted just a new challenge? I'm not convinced he signs any deal at Liverpool. I get the impression he wanted just a new chapter.
But I get that.
And
But
there's
my
no
point
amount
is,
of money.
if that was the case, they would have sold him. So that's it. If they felt all the way along, there's no way he signed a contract, they would have sold him. You know. So they obviously felt at some stage they might be able to convince him to sign a new deal. They didn't. Just in terms of the reaction, though, I think the reaction is a bit false. It's a bit childish. You know, especially where people say, like, if other fans say it's a bit ridiculous for you to have that opinion, fans of Liverpool go, you don't understand Liverpool Football Club, as if no one can put themselves in the shoes. It's ridiculous. Oh, we're a different type of football team. You don't get it. Shut up, man. What are you talking about? That's the only thing that I'll say about the reaction. Like, people get where you're coming from. People understand your point of view. They just don't agree with it. But we get why you're feeling that way. We just feel like maybe this ain't the time. That's it. There's no different emotional level that, well, people implying that the emotion of the football club means it's. Come on, man. Come on.
Go on,
I
last
mean,
point, Darren.
Jordan, it's like, well, you were contextualizing the players that I mentioned at the other clubs: Bale, Carrick at Spurs, Berbatov, Ronaldo at Manchester United, Van Persie when he left Arsenal went to Man United. There are so many examples. Wayne Rooney when he left Everton for Man United. I think in all of those cases and more, of course, people understood why those players made the move. But there was still a section of their fan bases that were as unhappy as a section of Liverpool fans are with Trent, because that's always going to happen. Whenever a player leaves a football club, you are always going to get people who say, yeah, but why didn't he stay? He could do so much with us and become a legend. But come on, I mean, some of this whole debate is a bit confected because we're in an era of people just getting angry for the sake of it. But everybody who's followed football for as long as we have, people watching they know that footballers move clubs, footballers step up a level. If you've got the
Mm.
opportunity to perform in an environment that is one of the best in world football, come on, you're kidding yourself if you think that an individual player is not going to take that. I don't think that we can talk all you like about how it ended. I don't think there is a day that goes by when Gareth Bale doesn't regret forcing his way out of Spurs to go to Real Madrid and to win the Champions League. Spurs can barely get into the competition, and when they did, they got to the final and they
Okay.
barely threw a punch. Whereas he's gone to Real Madrid, played with some of the best players in the world, and won it a number of occasions. This is what we're talking about, and I say good luck to Trent.
Cool. I echo that as well. Let's move on now away from football, gentlemen. Something that I wanted to speak to you guys about as well. I was in the sauna. I go sauna 4 or 5 times a week now. Right. So I love a sauna. I love a steam.
I was wondering where you got this glowing
What?
skin from, Jordan. When
What?
you
What's
came
what?
on,
No,
you
well, I've
know,
always had good skin, to be fair, but it's gone up a level. It has gone up a level. It has gone up a level. Hugh. You're right. You're right. You're right. I've been going sauna quite a lot recently, right? Up in my sauna game, and there's a gentleman in the sauna, guys, that I see pretty much whenever I'm there, and I'm there quite a lot, as I mentioned. And we got talking about. That's why I said to him, like, "You're here a lot." He's like, "Yeah, you're here a lot." I was like, "Yeah, I'm here because I've realised that despite being busy, I'm 48 years old. Not me, the gentleman. I need to look after my body, look after my fitness, and I'm just taking it more serious now." And it kind of got me thinking, like, okay, he's got a job that's very demanding. He's a lawyer, and also does quite a bit in he's very active in terms of he does a lot of sports and stuff, kind of at a kind of amateur level. Busy guy. But he was giving this whole long talk about how he's recognized the importance of, looking after his skin, looking after his body, looking after his general health. And I just thought it'd be worth having a chat about that with you guys because Web3 journalists and broadcasters, it can be very difficult to find the time to eat right, to go to the gym and exercise, or go for a run. It can be very time to find to sleep. Are we getting the right amount of sleep? And I just wondered if it would be valuable to our listeners and viewers to kind of hear, if you guys find it difficult as men of our age to look after your body, um, but also to talk on the importance that men of our age and even younger, of all ages, it is to make that time, despite busy work schedules, to look after our bodies. Darren, as a man with beautiful skin and at the peak of his fitness as well, I'll start with you. Not that you're not Hugh, good looking, healthy man as well. But I'll start with you, Darren. How conscious are you of well-being, health, and mixing that with the 79 jobs that you do?
um, I'm very conscious. I got to be honest. And I more so in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. Um, I think it's. I watch what I eat. There's a certain point of every day where beyond that point, I try not to eat. Um, I try to do more exercise. Actually, I still feel like I could lose a bit more weight. It's incredibly hard when you're a journalist. Certainly when you start, and when I started in journalism and I'd go to games, sorry, when I started in football journalism, I'd go to games and the game finishes late. Um, you travel home, you're buzzing, you haven't really eaten properly in terms of dinner because you've left early to get to the game. And very often, your meal, your evening meal, is something fast. And when that happens over a number of years, it's not healthy at all. Now, fortunately, I don't drink, so that's a plus point for me. But anyone who's seen me knows I do eat. And I think from my point of view, it got to a point where I had to be mindful. I had to lose weight. I had to look on a serious note, as we all know, obesity, particularly in the black community, um, it, 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 it's a big problem. Um, Heart conditions in the black community, a big problem. There are lots of conditions that, when within the African and Caribbean communities, are an issue, and you become mindful of them as you get into your 40s because you see the impact that they have on so many people around you. But even if you don't work in the media fraternity, it is still something that you have to be mindful of. Portion control, it's something that we don't really discuss. We've all been, privately dinners a lot, and it's something that we don't discuss. But as you get older, you realize, you don't have to have that much. Yeah. Um, Less is more, that kind of thing. I'm mindful of a lot of things in this regard because I just think that as you get older, your health is the most valuable thing you can have. People think it's finance and all that security, but if you've got all of that and you don't have your health, you've got nothing.
Hugh, I'm open enough to say in the last 10 or so years, I've put on a lot of weight. I had a doctor's appointment recently where it was flagged to me I'm carrying a bit too much weight. Um, you're a man that's on the road a lot with work. You're a very busy man. Um, how conscious? Same question to you. How conscious of fitness and health um, are you, and why is it important that we do, as Darren said, look at what we're eating, how much sleep we're getting, and how much exercise that we involve ourselves in.
I'm like the Luther Vandross of health, to be perfectly honest, man. It's a
Which
yo-yo
one,
for
fat one or
me.
skinny one?
Depends when you catch me, to be perfectly honest. Skinny over the summer when I'm not going to games, and then by the time we've got to winter, we've got an extra layer of fat on. To be honest, it's hard, man. When you're going to games, it is hard. Darren pointed it out already, because you need energy when you're on air. People have sweets, biscuits around. People will bring that kind of stuff just to keep them going. So you'll partake in a little bit of that. You'll leave maybe a ground at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then you're like, oh, do you know what? I'm just go through the McDonald's drive-through, get a little bit extra, or even if you wait until you get home, midnight. Sometimes you're eating a dinner at, even if, and it's, it's just irregular. It's all over the place, and it's just hard to have that discipline. To be perfectly honest, discipline to exercise is probably easier than discipline to eat, and maybe that's the case for everyone. People. There's a lot of people out there. I can get to the gym 3-4 times a week. I can have a good workout. I can go play a sport or activity, join a team, and feel like you're active. But you really are what you eat. Like it's. And for me personally, this is not me giving out advice because I eat terribly, terribly. Um, but diet is a massively important thing, and you do as you get older, it becomes more apparent that there are things that you can't eat or drink anymore. I don't drink anymore. Still look like I drink beers, but I don't drink anymore. Um, and it does make a difference. And if I could cut out processed foods, for example, it would make another difference. Fizzy drinks, another difference. So sweets, chocolates, whatever it is, it will make an added difference. And if you can condition yourself along the way, then it becomes very important. One thing that does change, I think, when you get older is, a lot of people, and I know people will be in the comments saying gym, 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 lift weights, lift weights. Yes, having muscle is obviously very important, but equally, depending on your frame, having too much muscle then affects your joints, muscles. Overworking yourself becomes more of a thing. Obviously, when you get older, when you're young, you're exercising every day. Now it's like after 3 or 4 days, it goes to the other side of things where it's like you can't then in your next gym session perform in the way that you want to or exercise in the way that you want to because you've maybe overloaded yourself. So it's definite, and this is not me as a professional. I'm saying speak to a professional, find out what's right for you. Doing that little bit of extra research is important because you can probably get yourself on a program that is actually ideal for how you want to feel, how you want to live
Is that
your
what
life.
you did, Hugh? Is that what you did?
Not really. Like I go to the gym, but what I do is I just go to a lot of classes. I go to a lot of classes where there's an instructor. Like that's primarily my exercise. So I get them to look at my form while I'm in there. I get them to say, you can go a bit lighter or you can go a bit heavier with that. I tend not to be in there on my own because I just feel like, again, I'm not a professional. I'm not overly gym confident where I'm like, yeah, I can go in, boost this, boost that. When I used to play rugby, we used to gym a lot. The goal was then power, mass, size. That's not my goal now. If I want to look like Anthony Joshua, probably, I wouldn't say exactly like him, but if I wanted to stack on muscle, I could go and get a program and stack on loads of muscle. But that isn't how I want to live my life. I'm not comfortable.
Could you talk us through what your for example, Europa League day? You're on the radio in the evening. So what's your
It depends where I am, obviously.
Like
I mean, it depends where I am. It depends where I am.
so,
Like
like
I
for
can
example,
fit
if you're
in.
in the studio in the evening,
Yeah, I'll go to the gym at lunchtime. So I'll wake up, do some prep. I probably will have done prep the day before. Go for a walk with a dog. Probably lunchtime, I'll go to like 2 back-to-back gym classes, and then I'll have a shower at the gym and go into the office, do my show. 7 o'clock start the show, so I've got time. Obviously, ends at 8 p.m. So I've got plenty of time. My schedule's different. I've got time to be fitter and work out more than what I do, to be honest. And I don't think anyone would look at me and say he's fit, by the way. You look at this guy and say he's unfit. So this is not me again giving out advice.
do you eat
But I
after the
know,
show?
yeah, I eat after the show as well. I usually eat just before the show, as you know.
So what time is
So
after the show?
when I get home, 11:15, I'll have something to eat, and I'll probably end up
See,
going to bed about midnight.
I don't, because I obviously, as people know, I'm sometimes on Talk Sport in the evening as well, and I used to do exactly the same, and I stopped because I just realised it's harder to shift as you get older. It's harder to shift if you eat late in the evening. You're putting weight on that you can't get rid of. Jordan?
Can I challenge that just a second, Darren? Yeah, because I've always believed that, I've been told that. But a doctor about a year ago said to me, it's a bit of a myth that the whole if you eat late, it's bad for your body.
That
And I was a bit
doctor
like,
might
what do you
want to
mean?
talk to my stomach because I'm
What,
telling you, I'm carrying a
what,
little bit.
well, hang on. And I would love anybody that is an expert to, in the comments, kind of put me right here or tell me that what I've been told is incorrect or not. But what he said to me is that weight loss, it's mathematics, right? It's calories. It's how much are you burning versus how much are you consuming. When those calories are consumed or burned, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether it's late or whether it's in the morning. He said to me, it doesn't make a massive difference if you're eating late on, if you're within your calorie count. He said it's all maths.
So do you eat late? Do you eat late?
I do. I try not to. I eat late a lot less than I used to because I just don't think, forget losing weight, I just don't think it's good to be eating big food at 8, 9 o'clock, right? But as
Why?
Hugh says, sometimes I don't like to go to bed with a full tummy. Again, put to one side, trying to lose weight. I don't like the thought of just being in bed and, Homer Simpson, just like that weight in your stomach of food before I sleep. I just don't like it. But I would love someone to kind of confirm, if that's watching this or listening to this, whether what I was told is true. But the guy said to me, it's maths. As long as you're within your calorific allowance, it doesn't really matter at what time of the day you consume that. And I just wanted to, Hugh mentioned a really interesting word there, Darren, earlier on when he said discipline. And I want to ask you about that, because we can all talk about our jobs and people have various jobs. We can all say we're time poor, right? And I don't have the time to eat a healthy meal. But at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for ourselves, right? We have to be accountable because it's our bodies, and there'll be no sympathy when we get health implications down the line. So how much do we and how disciplined should people be, do you think? And we're not experts here, but how disciplined do you think people need to be in finding a way, no matter how busy you are, you need to find a way to do an hour of exercise, find a way to try and eat better. We've got to be accountable for
Well,
ourselves and our own bodies.
well, so the room that you find me in here now, I bought a treadmill because I just felt I wasn't getting the time to go out to the gym during my day. So what I do is I get up at 6 a.m. and I come into this room and I go on a treadmill. I watch the news and just gen up on all the things that I need to. And it's a good way to wake myself up anyway, but it's also a good way of getting that exercise in that I need to start with. I do some weights as well. And it's important because of all the reasons that we've said. We are in a demographic, all three of us and a lot of people watching, where we are susceptible to a lot of things that are harmful down the line. I spoke about them earlier. The health implications of not getting that working are huge. So we can't afford not to be. And obviously, we kid around on here, but I would gently challenge the idea that you shouldn't eat late. Not because it makes you uncomfortable, but because it simply isn't healthy. And also, there are lots of foods that I ate growing up that I would more eat in moderation now. Starchy foods, sugary foods, which are part of our cultural diet that for me would not be healthy anymore. So there are lots of different things that I look at. I drink more water, much more now than I did when I was younger. And I think that's another thing that we neglect. Hugh's right. We drink way too much sugary, fizzy drinks, which we shouldn't. But I certainly think that health, and when you're a journalist in particular, with the odd hours that we keep, and the difficulties of being able to eat at times, particularly sort of between 4 and midnight, if you like, that normal people would take their meals, it's hard. There are lots of my colleagues who run, who really do look after themselves, who are disciplined about the way that they go about their business. But I think all of us, whether you're in the industry or not, should be thinking about that.
Agree. Just to wrap on this as well, I mean, Hugh mentioned the fact that he's not massively gym confident. I too am the same. In fact, I hate gyms. But for people watching and listening, there are ways in which you can get exercise in that doesn't involve going to the gym, or maybe you can't afford to join a gym. Walking. It's been said to me for years, you'd be surprised how much weight you can lose by walking to work or getting off the tube. This is what I'm doing now. I'm practicing what I preach. You get off a stop or two early, and or a bus stop and you just walk the extra 10 minutes. I live in central London. I'm lucky. So none of my workplaces are massively far. I'm trying to walk more. I cycle more. So there are small, even just every day, walk around your block for 15 minutes every day. There are small things you can do that are free and don't involve you having to go into an environment where you're with some meathead telling you to pump 25 pounds of iron every single 2 seconds. So just the discipline for the food is important, but there are
Let's
small
not disrespect
wins.
people that are in the gym every day. Like these people, it takes a lot of motivation to get
No,
yourself to that stage, Jordan.
but there's a
It
lot of
makes
people
you
that are like me
uncomfortable,
and you.
obviously. It
Yeah.
makes you uncomfortable, obviously. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. Let these people do their thing. Let these people do that. It's just not
I
me.
can't.
No need to be
And then,
rude. No need
and then
to
I got
be
to see
rude.
on, and then I got to see on Instagram with some dude. Anyway, it's just like I can't do it. Right. Happy living and happy health. I did want to wrap though, guys, with one thing that's really got my go. Give me 1 second. 1 second. Hold the line. Hold the line.
I bet he's ordered his
Amazon.
last week, Hugh. Jordan had his breakfast delivered to him by Uber. So I'm wondering if this is the case again. Is that
Right.
your breakfast being delivered by Uber, Jordan?
It's not actually. It's not. And this actually is going to be a really poor segue from what we've just discussed a second ago. I was in Brixton Market 2 weeks ago doing my shopping as I always do, getting my chocho and my okra and my plantain and my breadfruit, etc., etc. I'm a man. I like bun, right? Bun. We know bun and cheese. I like bun. It's my treat.
Yeah.
It's my treat for the month. Gentlemen, the world's gone. £18 for a box of bun. 18. Listen, the country is finished.
No.
This country has gone down. We're done out here. We are done. You thought the plantain scandal 5 years ago, 3 pieces of plantain for £4.50 was an outrage. £18, Hugh, for a box of bun. And for those that can't see and listening on the audio, I'm showing this box of bun. I went to the shop. I bought my mixed veg. I bought some fish, and I bought the bun. The woman said to me, "Yeah, she had the card machine." She goes to me, "Yeah, £29. £29 for what? That's £4.50. That's a fiver." Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the bun is £18. Hugh, I'm going to repeat, £18. We're finished. We are done out here. When bun
You
is
need to tell me
costing
whoa. You need to tell me where the factory is first, though. If it was made in Birmingham, you're getting ripped off. But import costs now, tariffs and whatnot. I don't know where we
I don't know
are.
if it's Brexit. It might be Brexit. It might be tariff. I don't know what it is, but we are done out here. I could not believe it. £18.
Can I ask a question?
No.
Can I ask a question? Because Jordan said something there. We haven't really talked politics today, but Jordan said this country's done. Done in inverted commas. Can I just ask? I was in Spain this weekend. We're in Madrid. Lovely city. Really well designed, laid out. Just a pleasant experience. Obviously, the weather wasn't even great this weekend. It was raining and stuff, but still a pleasant experience. And my partner's taken to learning a bit of Spanish on Duolingo. And so we got to obviously talking about, obviously learning Spanish. I was like, oh, do you know what? I might try and learn Spanish too. What we're going to do in the future. And we were with friends who were also like, don't know about staying in the UK. Don't know about staying in the UK forever. And one of the reasons that we pointed to was the cost. It was just like, are you actually getting value for money by living in the UK? Do you actually get what you need to from your life on earth, by being in the UK? I don't want to be disrespectful about my own country where I was born and raised, but you look at a number of other countries, and you're like, I think I might have a better quality of life living there. I know we spoke about it with Marvin came on the last series and he spoke about South Africa and what difference he had living there, Marvin Harrison. But it now I think has made it, even since then, things have changed even more with the cost of living crisis, with I don't know, man. It feels like everything is coming on top in an even stronger way by living in the United Kingdom, because I feel like there are wages that are higher elsewhere. There's a quality of life, might be sunshine, might be the beach, might be whatever. I think there's also a cheaper existence, a happier existence elsewhere.
We can't go on like this. We can't carry on like this. I mean, last time I bought a bun, it was £8.50, and like everything goes up. We get that. Everything goes up every year. No problem. Inflation, I get it. Double. How is a bun? I gotta go. You know what? And I couldn't put the bun back, Darren, because I was too ashamed to say, no.
Well, I want to ask Darren. John. Let me ask Darren very quickly. Final point on this, because I know he's got kids, young kids. They're the future of this country, hopefully. And you sometimes look around and you think, our parents came from other countries to this one, believing, I think, that they would have a better quality of life, but that certainly they could provide us, their children, their grandchildren, with a chance to climb the social mobility ladder, let's call it that, in the United Kingdom. And now we, as potential, me and you, Jordan, hopefully in the future fathers, Darren already. Darren, I suppose you wouldn't be surprised if your kids start coming home saying, we're going to go and live in Australia, we're going to go and live in America, we're going to go and live here, because they could probably get better opportunities. I'm thinking of the water companies, thinking of the electricity, thinking of the train, thinking of all of the stuff at the moment that seems to be getting sucked out of the lives of young people, the inability to go out and have a drink and £7.50 a pint and all this stuff. You wouldn't be surprised if your kids say, do you know what, I'm just going to go away. I'm going to go and live somewhere else. I'm going to experience something different, Asia, Africa, wherever it might be. That wouldn't shock me. But it actually hits to the point now where if I was having kids,
Would you encourage it?
No, but I'm like, is this the best place to give them the key point, a better life than the one I had? I don't think they're going to have a better life than the one I had. No way.
I think we live in a different world, though, to the one that we grew up in. I mean, we live in a different world to the one that you grew up in, and you're slightly younger than I am. So I think as far as my kids are concerned, it is a very different world. I mean, I do think that on the continent, for example, there's more freedom of movement. Obviously, the self-imposed Brexit hole that this country dug itself into limits so much. But set against that, we have a government in this country that's very different to the governments of some of the countries on the continent. So the idea that you would have a better life, quote unquote, in some of those countries isn't quite as idyllic as it sounds. I do take your general point that a lot of kids would look at a lot of things and be a bit disillusioned about them, but I think their perspective is different from ours, and I don't think that they look with such foreboding, if you like, at the state of play. I mean, rising costs are a thing everywhere. It's why populist governments get into power, because they promise to bring them down and put more money into the pockets of people by cutting services and getting rid of people in big money jobs, etc., etc. No one quite has the right balance, the right solution, but it is not something that you're going to escape by leaving this country. I think that the problem here is the bit, and we touched on it a few weeks ago when Jordan was talking about the government being in power for 14 years and everyone, taking over from the guys who were here for 14 years and suddenly taking away winter fuel payments, disability payments, etc., etc. But again, in general terms, would my kids come along and say, I'd rather live in America? No. I'd rather live in Italy? No. Germany used to be the wonderful, tolerant place, a wonderful, tolerant place.
Yeah, but the question is, would you be surprised if they came to you and said, I want to live somewhere else? Maybe not those, let's not run through individual nations, but would you be surprised if one of your kids said, I'm immigrating?
I would be, because we're a very close-knit family, and I think at the moment our home is here, so I would be in the short term.
Gents, let's wrap it there. What I will say is the black people, they took our planting, they're taking our bun. Black people rise up. Black people rise up. Rise up, black people. And also, Arsenal rise up. Because I'm telling you, this is a big week. Let's get it done. Also, Arsenal football. Leave your comments on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Do you think that we're unfair? As a reaction, uniquely a little bit off. Just a little bit about fitness and how you guys stay in shape. Bring them in. Keep them coming. I'll also be responsible for let you know where I can find you. You know to find us on all the socials, in the comments below.